this is Chucky, and this is our second video on PigTube. This video is all about if or when or how to introduce your dogs to a mini pig, or maybe your mini pig. I will say that I know I've mentioned before, I am not a professional pig expert of any sort, but I will say I am an expert and a professional when it comes to dogs. I'm a professional dog trainer with a little over 7 years of experience, and I've trained over 550 dogs, and this is a field I am very confident in, and it's a field that I have seen a lot. So I know to many people this might seem like a video that's overly cautious, or it might seem like a video that I'm playing it a little too safe, but I will say that when bad things happen, nobody thinks it's going to happen. So I decided to take the time for a nice long video on how, if, when to introduce your dogs to the little mini pig. This is my first time using this little snuffle mat, so hopefully Chucky will be entertained the whole time and will be a good little boy. What I wanted to do before I sat down to do this video was I wanted to record a video of this little boy squealing. So that way you can almost use it, it's at the end of this video, you can almost use it as a way to test your dog's reaction to the sound of a pig squealing. So stay tuned for that at the end. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's me practicing holding him, because you have to do that with pigs, and in the beginning it's very loud and they scream and it just becomes kind of chaotic. So if you're getting a mini pig, that will be some of your training, and figure that video would be a good test for your dog. So when it comes to introducing your dogs to pigs, I will say this is not something that's like introducing a kitten or a puppy who is calm and soft and sleepy, and that's a very easy introduction. This is an introduction that will possibly take weeks, months, longer maybe. So don't go into this expecting it to be like love at first sight, everybody gets along. This is more, to me, not necessarily all dogs get to meet the mini pig. It's if your dog has the temperament and behavior and training and listening skills and everything involved to interact with a pig. So I think the big thing I need to mention is that being a professional dog trainer, I have picked up some rescues along the way that really needed a professional dog trainer as their owner. And you know, all of my dogs, I have 5 dogs, and they do not all get along, and it hasn't always been that way, but luckily the way that my house is set up, I basically have it set up that they each have their own sections of the house. So everyone still gets attention, everyone's very happy, nobody is neglected. So I will start by saying with pigs, they will never ever be left alone with your dog, and at least with a mini pig, because there's just lots of risk involved. But I think, you know, I will say I have this set up, and I think everyone needs to know that your pig will not be or should not be left alone with dogs. So you need to almost assess your living situation and see, do I have the space to separate them? Not with a gate, I mean like with a door, like a full door. Do you have that setting to do that? And I think it's important to be realistic with what your situation really is as I go through this video, because I know many of us really, really want a mini pig, but many of us don't really have the situation for one. So as I get further into this video, please just keep in mind how realistic and how honest you're being with yourself, because the last thing anybody wants is for you to get a mini pig. Oh yeah. The last thing anybody wants is for you to get a mini pig and have to rehome the pig, or even, I don't know if I want to say even worse, but just as sad would be getting rid of your dog because it doesn't get along with your new mini pig. I don't want anybody to be rehomed. So be honest with yourself. And I think that kind of leads us into our first topic. This first topic is predators versus prey. Wow, I love talking about this because everyone just looks at pets like little babies that we have almost like children. We kind of forget the origins of where they come from. So let's talk about dogs. In this case, they are predators. And I think I've already kind of covered this in my first video, but if you haven't watched it, pigs are prey. And what that means is there's a very big difference in their confidence and how they behave. And I think the more important part to focus on is that pigs are prey, and that means that they're very, very skittish. It means that they're very, very loud. It means that they are nervous and jumpy. And dogs being predators, those are all different things that they kind of key into with prey. So talking about dogs, in the dog training community, there's a phrase that everyone calls call of the wild. So call of the wild is basically a broad term for things that trigger dogs. And usually the more dogs there are, the more it becomes like a group triggering. So I wanted to kind of run you through a list of things that people usually see that would trigger call of the wild. The first thing that I think of, I am not an advocate of dog parks, and I know people are bummed by that. And a lot of the things that I talk about, I have seen at dog parks. And the first thing would be, let's just say a dog gets its paw stuck in its collar for a second and is very dramatic, or maybe not, maybe it's hurt. If it's yelping, that is something that can trigger a reaction out of other dogs. So what that would basically look like is one dog yelps and another dog keys in. And then in a group setting, another dog keys in. And now they're getting kind of worked up, and it becomes unintentionally, it's not like they're mad, but it becomes a fight. It's almost like an instinct that they are almost like attacking this dog that's yelping, because it's just like a wild call of the wild instinct. So I think that happens even in home settings, because working with clients and dogs every day, do you have to go potty? Working with clients and dogs every day, I see it where if one dog yelps, the other dog keys in on it. So that's something that you have to be mindful of, because pigs are very, very noisy and skittish and squealy, and they're gonna make lots of noise. Oh, you're coming in my lap? They're gonna make lots of noise that could potentially make your dog kind of key in on them. I think with a pig, the big things that would trigger that are the jumpiness, the skittish, the running, the squealing, all that kind of stuff. And I want to make a point that it doesn't always start aggressive. Sometimes it starts with, I'm very, very excited. And if they're very, very excited, dogs do, their body language when they're very excited can scare the heck out of your pig. For example, let's say your dog is so excited about this pig and it does like an excited little bark. And that little bark is going to make Chucky jump, and it's going to make him squeal. And because he's prey and we are interacting with a predator, his instinct would be to run. So that behavior is now triggering a prey drive out of the dog. So now the dog is no longer looking at this pig like a fun little animal. Now it's looking at it like, oh, I gotta chase it. I gotta get that pig, because now it's triggering my prey instinct. So I don't want you to think it's always aggressive, but it just quickly kind of turns that way. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in depth, but again, I really want you to be realistic with what your situation is. Be honest with yourself, because I don't want you to be in a situation where somebody gets hurt or worse or rehomed. Fatal would be the worst thing for me. I don't think I could ever recover from that. And while we're talking about dogs, I want to talk about your dogs. So let's talk about your dogs. I love dogs. They're my favorite. So with dogs, I want to start with the most important thing is, what breed is your dog? I know some people have rescues and you don't know the breed, but maybe you can get a good guess based on what they look like, or maybe their behaviors if they're like pointing or hunting squirrels. So I want you to first number one homework assignment is research the breed of your dog. A lot of people don't realize it. Big dogs, small dogs, little teeny tiny dogs like little dachshunds and wiener dogs, a lot of dogs are bred for hunting. So that means that they are bred with a natural instinct for prey drive. So research your breed, see everything it's bred to do, see what jobs people have these breeds do, and that way you're almost prepared for what the challenges might be and what behaviors you would maybe expect out of your dog. The other part is asking. Now that you know what your dog's breed is for, asking yourself with your specific dog, how does your dog respond to prey? So when you're walking your dog and a squirrel runs by, or a bird flies by, or there's a rabbit in the bushes, a cat that just snuck by, what does your dog do when they see those? Do they ignore it? They're just kind of like, oh well, just a squirrel, who cares? That would really be a good answer. Or does your dog's whole body perk up where the ears stand up and the tail is straight and all of his hair is standing up and he's tunnel vision fixated on that animal? That would kind of tell me, okay, there's a little bit of prey drive in your dog. And I want to go one step further and see, what does your dog do around a puppy? So a puppy that is squealy, or, well, I guess squealy is for pigs. I guess puppies can be squealy. But I think, how does your dog react to a puppy who's kind of unruly? They make noise, they bite, they pounce. Maybe they don't have manners with how to play quite yet. Does your dog enjoy puppy behaviors, or does your dog not like it? Some dogs will have the instinct to correct. And correcting would basically be to nip at them and to bite them. Obviously, puppies are also predators. Pigs are still prey. So what that means is you cannot have your dog doing that to this pig, because the prey response is to panic and it's just going to spiral out and get worse. And I just don't want the dog or the pig to be incredibly stressed out when they're together. The first chunk of time that you get your pig, it's going to be loud because they're going to be adjusting to a lot, and because they're prey, they make so much noise. So please check out the video that I attached at the end of this with what these noises sound like and how loud they actually are, because I just don't think that you're prepared. And going into the next part of it, many people have one dog. If your dog is an only child and is used to getting all of the attention, has your dog ever shared a living space with another animal? So, for example, I train dogs all the time. They're the only dog in the house, and that dog goes to daycare, plays with her friends' dogs, plays with the neighbor's dog, whatever it is, very friendly, very social. However, that dog has never had any other animals in its living space. So there are some behaviors that you might not know your dog has. And to me, the ones that I think of that I see the most often would be maybe they're territorial over the couch. So we don't know that because we've never had an animal in the house before with your dog. So we don't know if he's territorial over the couch with another animal. We don't know. I mean, maybe your dog is okay with you taking bones from him. Maybe he or she is okay with you taking food away from him or her. But I don't know that you would really know if your dog is food aggressive, bone aggressive, territorial, resource guarding, unless your dog has shared your living space with another animal. So the best thing you could do for that would be maybe having a friend's dog come into your living space. And that way you can kind of see, maybe this only child is not so used to sharing. So keep that in mind. Could be the world's nicest dog, but maybe it just hasn't had the opportunity to really show you a side that you haven't seen before. I think going into the same direction of, how well you know your dogs, you want to be very honest with yourself with your dog's listening skills. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm a dog trainer and I make a full-time living training dogs because they do not have good listening skills. So the word that I use a lot in dog training is impulsive. So if they are impulsive, that means that they are not waiting for permission. That means that they are just, I want this and I want it now, and they do it. So what are your dog's listening skills like when there's animals around? What are your dog's listening skills like when they're playing with another dog? How well do they listen if they're very excited or very distracted? Because this pig is not going to be in your house temporarily. This pig is going to be living with you. So you need to know if your dog somehow were to run up to that baby gate that the pig is in. If you were to be like, hey, Scruffy, get away from there. Is he going to listen to you and do that? Or is he going to ignore you and you're going to have to say it 25 times? Or you're going to have to get up and physically remove him. It does not take much. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time with dogs, and I will say it is a matter of a single split second that something can go very, very wrong. So you want to, possibly get your dog trained or polish their training, so that way you know that if there's a situation, you can call your dog, you know that it'll listen. I'll give you some baby steps on how you can build up to that and how you can ease into it a little bit more, but you definitely want to be aware of how well they listen when they're excited or distracted. The other thing that I prepared for when I got Chucky, I knew when I got him, I have a lot of different breeds, and to be specific, I've got starting from youngest to oldest, I have a standard poodle, I have a pit bull who's 3, I have a American bulldog, and then I have a Beagle Jack Russell hunting type dog, and then I have a Schnauzer Yorkie mix who's only like 10 pounds, and she is 16. So with these different ages and different breeds, I kind of knew going into it, there's a really good chance that somebody is not going to like the pig. And that was okay with me because I have the setup for it. I have the room that I'm in right now. Both doors are closed, and I've got dogs on both sides, but they can't get to Chucky. So I knew if I needed to, I could separate them with doors so that there's no drama. And outside, I have a huge fenced-in area for Chucky that's just for Chucky. So I have the setup that if they don't get along, oh well, I can just keep them separate. So I say that because you almost need to prepare for the worst. And what I prepared for is the worst, meaning none of my dogs like Chucky. So you need to prepare for that, because that, by being prepared for the worst, you're basically thinking, okay, if my dogs don't get along with my pig, what will the situation be? How will I handle that? So you need to almost think to yourself right now. I'll give you a second. If your dogs do not like the pig, or there's aggression or fear or whatever it is, are you comfortable or okay with having them live separately? Think about that, because what that means is if you need to leave the room to do something, that means that you are making sure that this door is shut behind you, this door is never opened, this doesn't happen, you're keeping them separate. When you go outside, you probably won't let them out together unless the fence is very, very, very sturdy. So you need to think to yourself, am I okay with them potentially living separate lives? Because separate lives typically means that one of them will be left alone. And if one of them is alone, this is where, if you get your pig as a baby, it's not that bad because you're just going to kind of raise them into being independent. So I'm crate training Chucky, so he does get a fair amount of alone time in his crate. And, he started off really unhappy, but now he's quiet and he enjoys it. But that is something you have to ask about your dog. Your dog potentially has been there first and a lot longer, and your dog might not be as comfortable being left alone, separated in a different area of your house. So ask yourself, if I had to separate them and my dog is on the other side of that door, are they going to be calm and just fall asleep on the couch or on their bed? Or are they going to be stressed and anxious and destroying your door, scratching it? Are they going to be barking? Because that's not going to be good for your pig. And I really, like I said, I don't want either of them to be stressed out. So if your dog has separation anxiety, then, you know, that might be something, or maybe not even anxiety, maybe they're just acting crazy, then that might be something that you need to look into training for, so that way you can live a peaceful life and they can live a peaceful life. And if we're talking about separation, you have to ask yourself, do you have the setup to separate them? Because like I said, and I will say all the research I found, this is not just me being a dog trainer, but this is everywhere that I have researched. It is not recommended to ever leave your dogs alone with your pig. And if you have a giant pig, I think it's a little less risky because they're huge. But if you have a mini pig, I mean, at the end of the day, even if they're huge, dogs are predators, and their instinct is to kill. And there are dogs out there that are bred to hunt pigs, so they're gonna win. So that's where you just have to be mindful of, can I separate them? Do I have the setup to separate them? You might have to add a gate, you might have to add a door, you might have to add something that makes it possible that when you leave the house, or if you leave the room, or whatever it is, that they have their separate quarters. But I will say, if your dog is not ready to meet the pig right now, it doesn't mean never. Sometimes it just takes a long period of time, and I'm going to talk about that now. But I don't want you to think that never is what I'm telling you. Let's talk a little bit about when to have your dogs meet, or when to start, how to start. So I would say you're doing this in baby steps. So get ready right off the bat that this is going to be a period of time that's going to be months, maybe weeks, months, year, I don't know. Look at it like an investment. Look at this like you're taking all of this time to ensure that your pig is safe, no one is hurt, no one is traumatized, and you're doing this as an investment for the rest of your pig's life. So let's just start by getting them familiar with each other's smells and each other's body language and their noises. And this little gate, this is actually kind of a big gate, but I have in my living room, I have a much smaller gate, and I will say, like, it's got like a little cover on it. I start with pens to teach dogs to interact with Chucky. So what I've basically done is every time I'm in my living room with my dogs, I have him and his pen, and my dogs are all very well trained, so they do listen well. But what that basically means is if they want to go to the gate and check him out, they'll touch noses. It's very cute. They'll touch noses through the gate, and I love that because they're kind of interacting with controlled freedom, and it's not like a complete free-for-all. No one can really get hurt. However, you have to be careful with the playpens because some of them are flimsy. I don't know that the one I'm sitting in right now is really strong enough. The plastic one that I use over there is probably not strong enough, but I'm there. Again, they're not unsupervised, and my dogs listen. So if there's a scenario that one of my dogs tries to somehow open the playpen or get in the playpen, I can say the word no, and they're gonna back off. So I would say make sure that it's very, very sturdy. And if you're worried about your dog being too excited or too strong or too much, like just too much energy, then I would encourage clipping the leash on your dog and introducing through the gate with a leash on, because then if it gets too excited, you can kind of pull them away. No, settle down, and then, ease them back into it. Because again, pigs are so fearful at first that if this dog, I'm thinking of like a big 80-pound golden retriever right now, they're so aggressively friendly that they're gonna accidentally just terrorize this poor little pig. So what I would do is hold the leash, ease into it. You might even start with them 6-10 feet away from the playpen and just have them sit, and you just pet them while they just look at the gate. So I think you want to at least do the baby gate phase of through the gate until your dog is at a point of being kind of like neutral to the pig. Just kind of like, okay, it's just a pig, it's just a very loud pooper, I can move on, everything's fine. I don't think you're ready to move on if your dog is still through the roof excited. Same thing if your dog comes up to the gate and the pig is still having a fearful response of squealing and running, not ready. again, I'm really looking for both of them to be very neutral with each other and not scared or overexcited. I would say the other thing of, I guess, leaning a little bit more into how to do this, once you're past the baby gate phase, you want your pig to be harness trained, and I'm going to make another video on that. I think that could possibly be my next video. I'm not sure. But you're going to want to do harness training on the pig so you can have a leash on your pig, and then you're absolutely going to want a leash on your dog. You want the dog's leash clipped onto a collar that is tight. I do not want that dog backing out of the collar and charging this pig and God knows what. So make sure that you have a leash, a harness, something that is not going to let your dog loose. If you're by yourself, what I would recommend doing is tethering the leash in a reliable way. You want to feed the buckle of the leash through the handle of the leash while it's wrapped around a leg. So that way it's not a knot. It doesn't come undone. It is there until you pull the buckle out of the handle. But I think you want to tether the dog if you're alone and then have your pig on the leash so you can kind of have the pig walking a little bit but not get too close to the dog, and then the dog can be walking a little bit but can't get too close to the pig. So definitely tether it to something heavy. I would say another option that you could do with that is have the dog tethered but laying on a bed while you're maybe on the couch hanging out with Chucky or your pig, whoever it is. But start with that, and I would do small increments. So start with small periods of time and on a good note, separate them. And again, I'm not looking for overexcitement, so you're basically doing this until, again, they're just kind of bored of each other. So do that, and then I would also say, like, I know this is not like a puppy where people want to let them loose and just let them party and wrestle like WrestleMania, and I think that's the wrong approach. And what you want to do with any fearful animal, especially prey, you would want to introduce them out of the baby gate or the playpen. You would want to introduce them in a calm setting. So I would do, like when I do it for the first time, it's going to be when everybody is sleeping and just chilling, because then you could probably get your little pig out and on your lap or on a leash or whatever. And if this pig is just sleeping in your lap and your dog is sleeping, there's a good chance that if they're already bored of each other, they might not even realize that the pig is out. And if they do realize the pig is out, they're going to be like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to keep sleeping. So start in a very calm, quiet setting, and then gradually go up from there. You know, maybe if you have a second person, they can hold the dog's leash and, like, again, make them just get close enough. Maybe they can touch noses. But if they're going to be touching noses, we need to talk about body language. Typically, the body language I look for out of a dog, that would be like, oh boy, the one thing would be they point their tail. So that's when their tail gets really straight, or it gets very still. So pointing their tail. The next thing would be standing very still, almost like a statue, standing still. That is typically like they're about to pounce. They're about to do something silly. The other things that I'm not looking for is when the dog's hair stands up on their back. That to me is also like a sign that they're kind of like shooken up a little bit. So I would say I don't want the hair up on their back. Other things would be like heavy duty shaking, or it would be fixating, which fixating is basically tunnel vision. I'm staring at this pig and nothing around me in the world matters. That is fixating. So an example with fixating with my dogs, if I'm not sure if they're fixating, I can just be like, how you doing, buddy? And they'll instantly like break focus and look at me, and that is not fixating. Fixating is, hello, you're tapping them, are you in there? And they don't even know you're here. So fixating, not good. And again, a wagging tail could mean excited, but I'm just not looking for overexcited, and I'm not looking for this pig looks like my next snack. So I would just take it baby steps, take it very, very slow. There is no hurry. You've got your pig, you've got your dog forever. So there is no rush. look at it as an investment. I have heard of pigs biting dogs, but I am definitely going to be doing a video on training and discipline and basic manners. So as long as you do what I say in that video and you get your pig as a baby, there shouldn't be any reason that your pig is biting a dog. So I think for now, that's everything I really have to say about if, when, how to introduce your dogs to the mini pigs. If you have any specific questions that I haven't covered about breeds, find good trainers in your area and take it one step at a time. Maybe get your dog trained before you get the pig. Maybe talk to your pig breeder to see if maybe they can interact. They can do some sort of social interaction with maybe their dog and the pig that you're getting. But again, just be prepared. Plan for the worst, because you don't want to stumble upon a situation that's like, wow, I never thought this would happen, and now I don't know what to do. So make sure you always have a backup plan. So I hope this was helpful. If there's anything I missed, put it in the comments. But yeah, please also like, subscribe, and don't forget, I'm about to attach this video of me picking up Chucky actually earlier today, and see how your dog responds. I would actually love to even see in the comments, maybe put the age of your dog, the breed, and tell me how your dog responded to listening to Chucky squeal. And I guess we'll see if they pass the first pig test. All right, well, Chucky's sleeping, but thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.